Thank you very much. Please join us for the Deschutes County Board of Commissioners, our meeting for October 30th, 2024. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Citizen input. Okay, we have no citizen input. Stephen, is anyone online? Everyone must be out buying their sandbags, I think, because yes, they sit snow.
Oh, for the back of the pickup truck.
Yeah. And Nick needs to buy his too, of course, or maybe he still has his, but I got to buy new ones. So yeah, the good news is, yes, well, it'll be good for the ground. Moisture. Let's go to the consent agenda.
Move approval of consent agenda.
Well, that was unanimously at the same
There
time.
you go.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Further discussion? Commissioner DeBonne,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
and the board votes, the chair votes yes. And let's go to action item number 2. Nicole, thank you so much. Our deliberations on mini storage.
Commissioners, for the record, Nicole Mardell, Senior Planner with Deschutes County Community Development. Today you have 2 deliberations scheduled, so this is the first of those 2. Just wanted to note again that these are pretty similar applications, but they are proposed by different applicants. They do have different hearing records, so they do have to be deliberated separately. So this first one is for mini storage in the MUA 10 zone adjacent to Highway 97. So just to refresh the board's memory, this was proposed by Schwab, Williamson, and Wyatt for their applicant Lafke Properties. Essentially, they're proposing to allow mini storage in the MUA 10 zone as a conditional use, subject to specific siting criteria. So the property must be at least 10 acres in size and no greater than 30 acres in size, must be adjacent to Highway 97, within 2,500 feet of an urban growth boundary, and the property cannot be located within an urban reserve area. And that's a new criteria that again was added at the Planning Commission level. Previously, there were about 50 properties that were eligible, but with that removal of eligibility for properties in the urban reserve area, there's now about 37 properties that would be eligible. So we've also included an updated map in your packet today to show that exclusion of those urban reserve area properties. The board held a public hearing on September 25th and left the written record open until October 9th. During that time, the board requested that we reach out to the City of Bend and City of Redmond planning staff to see if they were interested in having additional criteria added to this text amendment related to notification and requirement for a pre-application meeting, including city staff. We did hear back from both cities. The City of Bend expressed support for these additional requirements. They didn't have any concerns about the proposal specifically, but they appreciated being notified and being included if these were to move forward to site-specific development. The City of Redmond noted that the criteria they felt weren't necessary because they have urban reserve areas and those are excluded from the proposal. They felt that they didn't have jurisdiction on properties that would be impacted by the text amendment. So they noted that they likely wouldn't participate in a pre-application meeting or provide comment since it's not likely within their area of jurisdiction. We also received in the open record period 2 additional public comments that were in support of the proposal. I wanted to note that for your format for deliberations today, we have provided a decision matrix. I wanted to note that the Planning Commission chose not to utilize the matrix during their deliberations process. They felt comfortable having just a more general discussion for their deliberations. So wanted to check in with the board to see if you wanted to move through the matrix item by item, or if you wanted to have general discussion.
Madam Chair, I brought the wrong set of packets here. Can I go upstairs and get different paperwork?
You may.
I have Monday's paperwork. I just figured out here, so.
Okay, sure.
But it's just some of the maps and stuff. Yeah, well, I got that stuff, but it's just the other notes I have from these. I apologize. I'll be right back.
Hey, I don't know if that's ever happened before. So,
Okay, all right, thank you. So Nicole, I do have a question. 64282 North Highway 97, that is out of the HEB line, is it not? 24282 North Highway 97?
Apologize, 64282.
Yes.
Yes, that is located outside of the urban growth boundary.
Okay, thank you for checking.
I had it all organized in the next pile over.
Excellent. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. I do have one other question. This one is limiting up to 30 acres and the other one is 35?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. So I think the question on the table is, do we want to go through the matrix or do we want to just approach it like the planning commission?
I'm happy to go either way.
So am I.
So yeah, I do have kind of clarity of the conclusion I'll be coming to. So yeah, just for discussion, I mean, I do see this as one of the terms that came to mind was, swap space. As Bend and Redmond are growing. There's these moments in time where it's valuable to have storage facility short term. The land is redevelopable. And it does seem to be a compatible use with MUA 10. So as I say, I can cut right to the conclusion I come to. And then are there specific items you need us to kind of rule on for the matrix for the clarity of the decision?
I think that's a great question, Commissioner. So because this is an applicant initiated text amendment, the burden of proof is on the applicant as well. Typically in the past, we've provided, I think, essentially the board decision with the applicant. We've kind of done it the same way we do with quasi judicial, where we've worked with the applicant to kind of finalize that final decision. So I would say it could be helpful in case this is appealed to have specific findings related to these items in the record, but it's at the discretion of the board.
as I say, I mean, I'm kind of cutting to the chase. I do support this, but we can go through the matrix just to give some clarity on specific wording.
Perfect.
That seems like a good reason to go through the matrix.
Okay, excellent.
Yes.
Then we can start with item number 1. So this is a question about if the proposed text amendment is compatible with the purpose of the multiple use agricultural zone purpose statement. So the essentially in oppositional comments, folks note that there is concern that this amendment conflicts with the proposed use as storage facilities are out of place with essentially the rural character of the zone, seeing as it's kind of a larger, more industrial use that's in some cases developed mini storage units. They note that no other commercial or industrial uses of this intensity are allowed in the zone, and the use does not support rural lifestyles in the way that other permitted and conditional uses in the zone do. Also note some concerns about agricultural operation compatibility and kind of questioning, the need for the use as rural properties typically are larger acreage and could have more room for storage. The applicant responded to this concern, noting that the use would allow for a transition between the urban and rural environment and could allow for storage of RVs and tractors and other equipment that's compatible with a rural lifestyle. They note that there's more intensive commercial and industrial uses already allowed in the zone, things like crushing and processing of minerals, landfill sites, et cetera. And note that gravel can be used, as an all-weather surface, which limits kind of the developed, parking lot style area that the oppositional comments noted as being concerning. Also note that visibility impacts could be addressed through the conditional use permit process. We did have some supportive comments in the record that noted that the use would be a safe and convenient storage option and could potentially reduce residential clutter on properties. And staff notes just generally that the consistency with the purpose statement isn't essentially a criteria. It just helps decision makers essentially understand the original purpose of the zone. So the question before the board is the proposed use consistent with the purpose statement? If yes, then we'll proceed to the next item in the matrix. And if no, then the recommendation would be to deny the proposed application.
The one thought that comes up to me here is height, max height for a development. Because as I say, when I envision this, I envision a single story facility, you drive up to a door and open and close and load or unload. But a multi-story structure would be something different for me. So what are the height restrictions in the zone? Is it just, and it's probably just standard, maybe 30 feet or whatever the total is. But any thoughts on that?
Question, Commissioner. I'm just going to double check in our code here.
And I just say that in contrast with an urban area, sometimes you do see 2, 3, and 4-story storage structures where there's a loading bay and then a transport up to different floors with an elevator, which is not what I'm envisioning here. So just getting clear on that.
Absolutely. Yeah, the maximum building height in the MUA 10 zone, which this would be restricted to, is 30 feet. There are some allowances for things like feature on a roof, but 30 feet is the maximum building height.
Yeah, so as I say, the only thing is there's an expectation. I don't know if we have it in rule that that's a single story structure. That's all I don't want to throw anything in at the last moment, but that's the vision here.
In my opinion, I would just say that I do not think that mini storage is consistent with the rural character of the MUA zone. If we want to talk about being able to store tractors and farm equipment, that is an authorized use of EFU zoned land. So, I mean, if there are farmers who need a place to store their farm equipment, they can do that on EFU zoned land. I don't see them needing to do that on small MUA parcels. And the other uses that are being called more intensive, things like minerals and landfills, public parks and campgrounds. I mean, these are rural, these are part of the rural landscape. and they help rural communities and rural economies to function. Mini storage, I don't see as similar to those as rural land uses. And I'll go back to my, original kind of framing of this, that I would much rather have seen this come in as a rezone request for a single property as opposed to a redefinition of what's allowed in MUA affecting at least 37 properties right now and moving over time as properties are rezoned to MUA and as urban growth boundaries move.
And I have a problem even with 37. Just drove up to Redmond, or actually I rode in the car up to Redmond yesterday and back, saw people doing U-turns. That highway is so busy and this area is so congested. I look ahead and I think, how in the heck are they ever even going to get on and off 97? Because it is such, what is it, a word, an 85-mile-an-hour nightmare. So I don't know. I'm not really comfortable with it either.
Excellent. So based on that discussion, it sounds like there's potentially two commissioners who believe that this item is not met, and one commissioner who believes it is. So based on that, I'm curious if the board would like to deny the proposed amendment at this point in the process.
I mean, I was thinking, okay, so 37 spots. Could you allow one spot? But I don't want to drive up and down 97 and see, for some reason, if storage units become a really hot way to make money, a whole bunch of them there, I think that would be rather overwhelming to that drive. Not particularly pleasing. I know there's some of the things that we've approved, like that diesel lot, that was always there, and that does serve that community. So, but 37 of these just seems really a bit overwhelming.
So
I do feel like the item number one on this matrix is the crux of the issue, the redefinition of what MUA means. And I'd be comfortable denying the application at this point, but I'm one of three, so.
Well, and I can't imagine anybody would store their tractor. Usually you want your tractor at your house. Because
Good morning, commissioners. Your planning manager, Will Groves. I wanted to note that generally when for applicant initiated text amendments, we generally take those as they're proposed without making significant alterations to them. To the chair's concern, one of the things that, there are a number of uses that were they all to happen on all adjacent properties could be unsuitable in a way that's foreseeable, just to your point. And the typical way to address that through land uses includes some sort of radius to say that, that once one of these has been approved in a place, you can't have another one within X feet, X miles. And you can see the city of Bend doing that with short-term rentals, for example. So, there is a way to address that of, forcing kind of a spacing or effectively creating a maximum density that these things could be installed at. Just wanted to note that that's a pretty typical planning approach to that type of question.
thank you, Will.
And the other way to isolate this to one property would be to not pursue a legislative text amendment, but to pursue a rezone of that one property to rural commercial or something else that would allow mini storage.
Okay.
So it sounds like, from my understanding, that two of the commissioners are comfortable moving forward denying the proposed amendment. So I guess we could move forward with potentially a vote. So I would suggest a motion of, I move that the item number one of the decision matrix is not met and recommend denial of file number 247-23000732-TA.
So moved.
And I'll second it. So, any further discussion? Calling for the vote, Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner DeBonne,
No.
and the chair votes yes.
Thank you very much. Or I think before we move on, just one question for the board. Are there any other items that you would like to address in the decision matrix? We found it sufficient if the first item isn't met to move on, but just wanted to ask if there are any other items you wanted to discuss to include in that decision.
No, I appreciate Will's comments. I just. It's like the comment the other day that if we did what everyone wanted to do now at the fairgrounds, they would build pickleball courts. Now, can you imagine maybe in 5 years that might be a bit of an overuse, so. But today, everyone would love to have pickleball courts.
Moving on to the next item. So this is deliberations for the next proposal, which is file number 247-2444-TA. This is for mini storage unit 20. So just a reminder, this was proposed by Eastside Bend LLC. They're seeking to amend the Deschutes County Code to allow mini storage as a conditional use in the MUA 10 zone, with 4 properties that are at least 10 acres in size and no greater than 35 acres in size, adjacent to Highway 20 and within 2,500 feet of an urban growth boundary. This impacts quite a few less properties. There's really only 3 currently eligible, but as Commissioner Chang noted on the last item, that's dependent on the current zoning scheme. So if property were rezoned or if an urban growth boundary changed, then additional properties could be eligible. Wanted to note that the board held a hearing on August 28th and left the written record open until September 11th to try to solicit comments from City of Bend planning staff. The City of Bend provided a formal no comment correspondence into the record. They didn't feel that they wanted to weigh in on this proposal specifically. Unlike the previous text amendment, just wanted to note that the key difference is that there is not an exclusion for urban reserve properties. And I believe that's primarily because eligibility right now is along Highway 20 is that it's adjacent to City of Bend, and then potentially someday could be pertaining to City of Sisters, but neither of those cities have urban reserves at the moment. With that, again, similar process would look to the board. My understanding based on the previous item is that it would be helpful to go through the matrix. So happy to start with item number 1.
Thank you.
So this first item, very similar to the previous application, is the proposed text amendment compatible with the purpose of the MUA 10 zone. Oppositional comments assert similarly that the proposed use is out of place with the rural character of the zone due to its large and industrial nature. No other commercial or industrial uses of this intensity are allowed in the zone. The use does not support rural lifestyles in the same way that other permitted and conditional uses in the zone do. Things like horse stables, vet clinics, et cetera, are examples of those that are more compatible with the rural nature of the area. Also noted some concerns about incompatibility with agricultural operations as well. The applicant essentially asserts that the use is compatible with the zone. They speak to things like schools, kennels, libraries being allowed in the zone and having similar operating characteristics. The applicant notes this isn't a resource zone, and mini storages would be helpful for property owners who might not have adequate area on their properties for storage. Also note that the conditional use permit process allows for additional site-specific criteria to be added to mitigate impacts. So things like screening, setbacks, limitations on operating hours. And because this is also in the landscape management zone, there's also an additional layer of visual impact requirements to address development. The Planning Commission did utilize a matrix on this item, so wanted to note that they voted 3-2 that the proposal was consistent with the purpose of the MUA 10 zone. Those in favor noted that the use was relatively low impact in terms of transportation trips and could be seen as a transitional use. Others, the two that were against, noted that the use was too commercial or industrial for a rural residential zone. And similar to the last application, just wanted to note that consistency with the purpose statement isn't necessarily a criteria, but the board is being asked to evaluate if the use will be appropriate and compatible with other uses in the zone. So I look to the board for discussion on this item. And similar to the previous item, if you find that this item is met, then we'll continue on to the next item. If you found that this item is not met, then the recommendation would be that the application be denied.
Nicole, can you talk us through how this would affect this, how this, at what point or with what changes this would affect the Sisters area along Highway 20? I mean, this is basically, but we're only talking about 3 properties right now, but again, as our urban growth boundaries change, as zoning changes, this could affect many, many more properties, spreading out farther and farther from Bend or, you know, what I'm asking about right now, Sisters.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, this is a proposal to allow mini storage in the multiple use agricultural zone. So the area surrounding the City of Sisters currently does not have very much MUA 10 zoned property. There's a small kind of chunk of MUA 10 that's along Highway 126, kind of just, I'd say, a mile or two away from city limits. So it's not currently, again, within that 2,500 square foot or 2,500 foot radius. So if property were rezoned, currently there's quite a bit of EFU land on the southeast portion of City of Sisters along Highway 20. So if property were rezoned from EFU to MUA 10, then they would potentially be eligible. And there's also property that's zoned forest on the north end of City of Sisters. So if that were to be rezoned, although there's quite a high bar for rezoning of F1, additional properties could be eligible on the northern end as well.
And, this makes me think about, since this is a legislative hearing, we can kind of meander a little bit in terms of our discussion, but this does make me think about the Lazy Z Ranch, which our community was very fortunate to have John Herman and his family take on ownership of that property, start to use regenerative agricultural practices to rebuild the soil, and you'll make that a viable farming operation. At the place where the soil was on that property when John Herman and his family purchased it. I mean, I could very easily have pictured someone trying to take the property to soil surveys and then get it rezoned MUA 10 or RR 10 or something like that, because it was substantially depleted. And that's just our good fortune that property changed ownership in that way, and had someone who was seriously interested in agriculture and rebuilding the soil take on that project. So with that concern again, that if a specific property owner wants a specific piece of property to be mini storage, they could pursue a rezone rather than changing the nature of MUA so that it is we have this constantly moving landscape of potential sites for mini storage going farther and farther out from our cities. I'm going to say again that I'm concerned about the compatibility of this purpose with MUA.
And I support this for the same reasons, redevelopable kind of swap space for other growth pressures in the area, inside and outside of a city, and you know, utilization of land for a needed benefit.
And of course, I have this same concern I had with the other. Um, Fortunately, this one only has 4 pieces that are applicable at this moment in time, but you know, they were talking about a maximum of 35 acres. So I can't imagine putting in 35 acres on the east side of town.
One of the thoughts I have is the fact that, you know, the land use system does promote infill, density plays. And this is just a market need that's evolving. You know, we saw it on the north side of Bend where the interchanges have been. There was a storage unit facility there that's not there anymore. So as I say, just for the opportunity of people coming and going, buying a new house, moving personal belongings, you know, this is an opportunity for, you know, just helping with that. As I say, the kind of the swap space of, you know, moving personal belongings during you know, transition, moving in or out of a house or any property.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's denying the value and need for mini storage in our region. I think we're, you know, I'm concerned about looking at a specific property versus looking at a whole landscape surrounding our cities of Bend and Sisters. And you know, I do think that a property owner could come in with a site-specific rezone application, tell us that what they want to do is use it for mini storage, and we could evaluate on a property by property basis you know, whether that is an appropriate use or not.
Thank you, commissioners. So based on this discussion, it sounds that we have 2 commissioners who find that item number 1 is not met, and 1 commissioner who finds that it is. So requesting potentially a motion similar to the previous proposal, motion that motion to recommend that item number 1 of the decision matrix is not met, and the board denies file number 247-24-000044-TA.
So moved.
I'll second it, but I do have a question. Our map, I'm only seeing 3 parcels on our map.
Only 3 parcels are eligible. Apologies if I may have misspoke earlier.
Yes, I know. I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, where's the other? Okay, it is 3 then.
Parcels currently.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Because I was, okay, great. I'll change my note. So I did second that motion. Further discussion? Calling for the vote, Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner DeBonne,
No.
and the chair votes yes.
Thank you very much, commissioners. So I will go ahead and work with our legal counsel and Brenda to schedule a follow-up meeting for, I imagine an ordinance, kind of adopting the board's decision. So I will follow up with you then.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Nicole, for making me pay attention more.
Mhm.
Okay, we need to go to item number 4.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kim Riley with County Legal. This is the deliberations for the landfills, for the protest filed relating to the RFP for the landfill siting consultant services, Phase 3. This was a protest filed by civil and environmental consultants. This was heard by the board on October 14th. We had a public hearing and the written record was left open until October 21st. I did have an opportunity to meet with each commissioner individually to answer any questions regarding the protest and the materials that were submitted. Staff has reviewed the materials and offered a draft order, as staff does not believe that CEC met the criteria that they were required to meet to protest this matter. But this matter is open for deliberation among the board, and obviously if the board chooses otherwise to approve the protest, we would come back at a subsequent meeting and provide an order that outlines that approval. But otherwise, there is an order denying the protest based on staff's recommendation.
Thank you, Kim.
Mhm.
Oh. Is there any discussion at this moment?
Yeah, I'll just say that when I met with Tim and I asked, when I met with Kim and I asked Tim to join us, I had a lot of questions following our hearing the other day, and basically I was just trying to determine, whether the winning bid was in some ways non-responsive in response to the concerns expressed by the protester, or whether it be we had failed to conduct the evaluation of proposals in accordance with the criteria or processes described in the solicitation materials. And I did ask a lot of questions, and at this point I'm satisfied that neither of those criteria, neither of those thresholds were met in this solicitation process.
But I would come to a conclusion of denying the protest. There's kind of, once in a career project going on here. I want to, all the professionals in the domain to support the project, but it does come down to just the RFP process and the business-like atmosphere of putting it out on the streets, having people respond, knowing who the parties are. So as I say, there's professionals all over this. So it was great to see all the names of people that are engaged in, wanting to be participating in this. But as I come to the same conclusion of don't see that we've been in a spot where our request for proposal process was compromised.
Okay. Is there,
I'll move adoption and signature of order 2024-043 denying the protest.
Second.
is there any further discussion?
Just acknowledging that, yeah, I mean, the content of the order, I don't have any opinions about it. It's really just the concept of what the conclusion is for me.
And I do, I wanted to thank them for coming in and actually taking the time to explain why they did have their position. I felt that was important, and I hope in order to be transparent. So, and parametrics truly showed up to defend what they were doing. So calling for the vote, Commissioner DeBonne,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. So thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
So now we are at item number 5.
Commissioners, it looks like our sheriff's office is planning to come closer to 11 o'clock for that. I asked Jen Patterson if to be available should the board want to move up agenda item number 7, the discretionary grant application review and allocation process.
Sure.
Early, so that we can continue to proceed with your agenda, and I will coordinate with Peter Gutowski on item number 6 in the event that we are also remaining ahead of schedule.
Mhm.
If that is acceptable to the board.
That sounds like an excellent idea. Thank you, Jen.
And item number 6 is not the hearing itself, so there's not a need to be time certain on that. Okay.
Morning, Commissioners. Jen Patterson, Strategic Initiatives Strategic Initiatives Manager for the record.
There we go.
Could be a long day. That's how I start here.
Hmm.
I'm coming before you today for the fall 2024 discretionary grant application review and allocations. Earlier this summer, I believe Nick met with you individually one-on-one, and the commissioners agreed to go to a twice yearly discretionary grant review and allocation process. So this is the first of the 2. The grants were due October 1st, and all the ones that you have in your application were submitted by primarily by October 1st, 2024 for your consideration. The next review process will be in April. That deadline's April 1st, 2025. Just as a reminder, during the video lottery funds allocation, this year there is $22,500 total available for the grants. And that is what is in the bank right now for this review process, as well as for the April review process, which we don't know how many grant applications that's going to be. So that comes down to $7,500 per commissioner to allocate between this review and allocation and the April review and allocation. As you can see, we had a robust application process. This time, I believe there was 46 applicants requesting a total of 104,000 and there was 47 applications that requesting a total of $104,139 for this review process. So, yes.
Jen, you said they would be due April 1st, but honestly, that's almost our year end. If we don't award it till, let's say, May 1st, and then it's May, June, and we're into the next fiscal year for the county. So I'm wondering if we could maybe move that up to May 1st or March 1st or something. April 1st just seems like it's at the end of the year. And I know that a lot of nonprofits, their donations have really gone down. And I would think if we could get that money out sooner rather than later.
Yeah, it's completely up to the commissioner's discretion on when you want those deadlines. There's been several different considerations on the table, whether keeping it quarterly, doing an annual, just
Well, if
once
we're only
a year,
doing it
or
twice a year, I would say move the second one up.
Yeah, so if there's support of two commissioners to move it to March 1st, we can absolutely do that. I can just change the wording on the website.
I'm open to that. I mean, after seeing the number of applications and the amount of the total amount requested, I think if we have another cycle like this in the spring, we need to fundamentally reconsider this program. I mean, it's so many good projects asking for so little money, or the little amount of money that's available. I almost, you know, just to make some kind of investment in the top projects that I like the most, it's only going to be like a few $100 a piece. And I don't think it's actually fair to groups to ask them to spend a bunch of time on an application when, if that bears out with my fellow commissioners and we're not all investing in the same projects. I mean, asking someone to spend all their time in an application, thinking that they might get $2,000 when they at best might get, $500, $750 is, I don't think is a good use of their time or our time.
Maybe we should wait and see at the end if we actually have anything left out of our 7,500. The fact that we have $22,500 and they're asking for 104,000, isn't that what it? Anyway, yeah,
That's correct. And just as a reminder, that's for the full year, 22,500.
I know.
And I will say that the applications are past October 1st are still coming in at kind of the same rate that I had previously. So there is already a bank of applications for the current April 1st deadline.
Okay. Yes.
And certainly, Commissioner Chang, we can continue that conversation during the video lottery fund allocation for fiscal year 26. These funds were already designated during the budget talks of last spring, but more than happy to, flag that for the conversation when we do the video lottery fund distribution this coming spring. Does that sound?
We agreed to
yeah.
try it this way this year, and again, if we get this many applications for this much money in the spring, it's I mean, in the world of private philanthropic foundations, you can have very competitive application cycles, but they're giving much bigger grants. And so I'm just asking people to do this work for this potential small amount of money, I don't think is I don't think is doing a service to these organizations that are doing such important work in our community.
Well, and I see this as a point in time, having a big thick book like this and all the narratives written up, the needs, the visions, the opportunities that are out there. This is a point in time. Seeing our video lottery fund being, pulled in many directions, our commitment to, not having as many resources to be able to distribute, but seeing this response is telling. And it's not just for us, it's for the whole community to be able to understand, wow, this is a point in time. So is this full book available online, like part of our agenda? Is it published?
That's a good question. I can look real quick on the agenda.
Well, the discretionary grant program, the organization, the requests and the projects, so the amount, that is all online.
And my,
But the
The
application.
actually applications, I'm
Applications
looking right
are-
now just
yeah,
to
I
see
don't-
what.
yeah, well, that's fine. So yeah, somebody can see the scope of this
I
if they
think
want
it
to
was
follow it in
just the
detail.
summary sheet
Yep.
that said, as Nick just said, it was the summary sheet that was posted, which is the organization, the amount requested and what project they were requesting for.
My point is, for anybody that's engaged in this domain, nonprofit leadership, specific organizations, they can do some homework and see the scope of what we're looking at here. That's what I was referring to.
Okay, should we jump right in then?
We should.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
And just one other statement, I'm basically probably just going to pick about, a half a dozen and send some dollars. So, I mean, there's no judgment here, and it's going to be an awkward moment when you say no to a very good effort, but it's just, kind of the priorities of the day, as I
That's what
say.
you're doing.
Yeah.
I'm actually hoping that you pick one and I pick a different one and we.
Yeah. So
we
as I
can
say, we're
spread
just
more
in that
money
spot now.
out, but it's definitely not going to be what in our heart we'd like to be able to do.
Mhm, mhm.
Yes, so since we have so many applications and limited funds to go through, we can do one of two ways. I know in the previous, we've gone line by line, but if the commissioners have done the allocations already individually, we could go commissioner by commissioner on what you'd like to allocate. So I'll defer to you on how we want to do this. If you want me to call out each one and the amount requested, and then the commissioners indicate whether or not they'd like to contribute, or if you'd just like to state what you'd like to.
Why don't we just do them the way
Okay.
age,
How we normally do. Okay,
yeah,
great.
And
So the first one is Age Friendly Sisters Country requesting $2,000.
Pass.
Pass.
Around the Bend Farms Incorporated requesting $2,500.
Pass.
Pass.
yeah,
See, that was the moment. Yeah. You're just like, oh,
No, it's hard. Assistant League of Bend, $2,000.
I'll do 500.
250.
250.
Beat Children's Theater, $1,500.
Pass.
Pass.
Yes, pass.
Bend Endurance Academy, $2,000.
Pass.
Pass.
Yes, pass.
Bend Film Incorporated, $2,000.
So is cultural grants, I think it's qualified in the past. So can you remind me what's the dynamic for that right now? Do we have a fund that's going to be once this
We
year?
do not have an arts and cultural fund at this.
Yeah, okay.
But we are sending $20,000 of lottery dollars to the Deschutes Cultural
Mm,
Coalition.
Okay. Yeah, for distribution, which we did last year.
Let me confirm that. Are you looking to me for confirmation? I'll just pull up the allocation.
I am almost certain. I mean, I don't know what the allocation was, but I know that that's what we set up.
Mhm.
We eliminated an arts and culture program for us to evaluate, but we are sending money over to the Deschutes Cultural Coalition to distribute for similar purposes. And many of these, the Beat, the Bend Film, Scale House, the Sun River Women's Club, Tower Theater Foundation, those are traditional arts and culture grant applicants. And so if I'm not allocating any funds towards them, it's because I think that they should be looking at a different source.
Yeah, and just confirmation, Deschutes Cultural Coalition is getting 15,000.
Just 15.
It was cut, almost
That's
every
right.
one was cut last year.
Okey doke.
Okay, so we're passing.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Lapine Education Foundation is requesting $2,000.
No,
Pass.
Pass.
Ben Next requesting 1,500.
250.
250.
Big Brothers Big Sisters of Central Oregon is requesting 2,000.
250, please.
250 for me.
250. And is there going to be a rolling average or somewhere for my?
Yeah, sorry, it's
'Cause
so
I
far
could s-
down, but yes.
Okay, so yeah, at some point it'll come out. Okay, good. That's fine.
You all are
Making
at
sure, yep.
6,750 remaining.
Okay.
Boys and Girls Club of Bend,
250.
50.
Looks like it's 250 day.
Yep, 250.
Brightside Animal Center is requesting $2,000.
Pass.
Pass.
I donate all my bottles to them, and I know they make like 100,000 off their bottle program at least. So I do what I can for them. They're a great program.
Yeah, there's a lot of great programs that
Central Oregon Trail Alliance is requesting $1,450.
pass.
Pass.
Yep, pass.
Central Oregon Veterans Ranch is requesting $2,000.
250.
250.
I'll do 500.
City Club of Central Oregon is requesting $2,500.
Pass.
Pass.
250, please.
Clear Alliance Incorporated is requesting $2,500.
I'll do 500 for them.
Pass.
Pass.
Diaper Bank of Central Oregon is requesting $2,000.
Pass.
250.
Embers Wildflower Animal Sanctuary and Bunny Rescue is requesting $2,000. Sorry, that was hard to get out.
Pass.
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 Every Kid Sports is requesting $2,000.
Pass.
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 Family Kitchen is requesting $2,500.
Can I just ask about that one? The application that was in our binder, it was dated April 1st, 20. I mean, it was dated a long time ago. And I mean, is that
It was just after the cutoff of the last one.
okay? So it's just holding that over.
Yep.
Because I mean, it also listed Donna Burklow as the contact, and she hasn't worked for Family Kitchen for some months now.
And search my email real quick. I believe I had direct conversations with them. I talked to so many organizations.
They
so-
still wanted, you verified that they still wanted their application in the.
Want to say that on the record without, let me just see if I can pull up it.
Yeah, it was an April application, and the title of the project is Free Meals in June. So we're a couple months past June at this point.
There'll be another June coming around.
Yes.
It does not look like I've had additional conversation with them since April 24th is the last one, and that was with Donna.
$250 for me, please.
Habitat for Humanity of Lapine Sun River.
500.
500.
With the land and ARPA allocations we've made, I'm going to pass on this one.
High Desert Food and Farm Alliance, 2,000.
250.
Almost, but yeah, I don't think I'm gonna have resources.
Yes. Pass.
Okay, now we can get to see your totals now at the bottom there. Hunger Prevention Coalition of Central Oregon.
Pass.
Pass.
Commissioner Dare, was that it?
Oh, pass. Yes.
I-4 Education, $5,000.
Pass.
Pass.
Jericho Road, 2,000.
Pass.
250.
So there'll be a moment where, there's going to be some alignment of resources needs for, the actions we're going to take on the east side of Redmond and north of Bend. So just because the partnership with some of these nonprofits is out there. So as I say, I'm passing on that right now, but we'll see what we need to do to coordinate in the near future.
Actually, the truck that was given to Jericho Road from the sheriff's office had 169,000 miles on it. It looked fabulous, but it also had brand new tires on it. So, yeah, that's why I'm not doing anything at this moment. Yeah, I appreciate what they do, but they got a very nice pickup with brand new tires.
Hilly Kids Sports Foundation, $2,000.
Pass.
Pass.
Lapine Rural Fire Protection District, $2,000.
I'm passing.
Pass.
Since they got their operating levy passed, I'm gonna pass on this.
Leadership Redmond, 1,600.
250.
250.
Love, $2,000.
Pass.
Pass. Can you scroll that up just a little bit so I can see underneath that?
Well, the little thing is,
There you
yes,
go.
there we go.
I didn't realize that the voice box was there.
Yeah.
M Perfectly, $10,000.
I'll do 500.
Pass.
Pass.
Mountain Star Family Relief Nursery, $2,000.
250.
250.
I'll pass. Don't they have a fundraiser today?
New Each Morning, 2,000.
Pass.
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 New Priorities Family Services, 2,000.
Pass.
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 Free Village Cooperative Child Care Center, 2,000.
Pass.
Pass.
I'm a big fan of Revillage, but I believe that we just saw that through the ARPA dollars that we allocated to Neighbor Impact, they were receiving a chunk.
We actually gave them, I think, 350,000 too, separately.
Saving Grace, 2,000.
Rising Stars right before that. So
Yeah, we
Oh, sorry,
forgot Rising.
Sorry. Rising Stars Preschool, 2,000.
500.
Pass.
Saving Grace, 2,000.
250 for me, please.
250.
I'll pass.
Scale House, 2,000.
Pass.
Pass.
School of Ranch, $989.
So they're looking for a very specific item, the projector. And I know that we're going to large screens at the county. There may be hardware coming through our facilities that could benefit this projector request. And also just recently, somebody else was looking for a projector. Oh yeah, that one of the sanitary districts, I think it was Tumalo's, that was what their request was financially, was for a display, a projector just like this. So if we could look into that, I mean, we may have a couple of them that are just being rotated out of belt, like, there's a screen built into this room, but we're not using a projector anymore.
Great. I made a note of that. I'm sorry, what was the second organization?
Tumalo Sanitary Authority. That was in their list of needs.
Right. The sewer district.
I'll look into that. Smart Reading, 2,000.
Pass.
250.
I'll do 250 also.
Southern Deschutes Volleyball Association, 1,000.
Pass.
Pass.
Oh, pass.
Sun River Police and Fire Foundation, 2,100.
Pass.
250.
Pass.
Sun River Women's Club, 2,000.
I think that's a fit under the other category, what do we call it?
Arts and culture.
Fundraising,
Oh,
fundraising efforts in the past.
I
So
can
maybe-
add,
maybe
this is the
review that.
fundraising request, which is I can add them into there.
Yeah, I'd like to just balance it with that to see if it fits with the resources available. I think that kind of is what that is.
So pass on this portion.
Yes.
so they're in the fundraising.
I don't think
It's
they
just-
are.
So I put them into, I put those into ones into fundraising, so I could have just missed, I'm gonna pull it up real quick if you, it can go into fundraising.
Right.
And they might not have written it up and asked for it like that, but I think that's a better fit for it.
Okay. I'll just add them in real quick on the, when we review that in just a minute.
Great.
The Giving Plate, 5,000.
500.
250.
Pass.
Power Theater Foundation, 2,000.
Pass.
Pass.
Tree House Therapies, 2,000.
Do we have anything left that we owe them? Remember, like,
Well, just a 10-year agreement that was. in
Right.
place.
but does that have to run through this? What we
Where
were going to
funded
pay?
it.
I know. Isn't there a specific number that that we're supposed to be reimbursing? It was like for their STCs or something, remember, Nick?
Written up in there. It says 10 years,
Yeah.
$2,000 a year for,
Yes. So how do we do that when we said we would?
and I still support covering that.
Well,
Where?
yes. Good idea.
Well, I've got 250 I can put to it right now, and then maybe just need to have a discussion with them,
I'll make a note to look into that. As you know, this is my first time doing this, so.
That's a odd.
Yeah, it was,
historical-
it was STC fees of $22,240. And we were supposed to,
We had agreed to, yeah.
yes, do something. So we need to figure that out.
I made a note, so I'll look into that.
We win.
It was before your time.
About 7 or 8 years ago, yeah.
But I have actually met people that do use Treehouse at the Rascal Rodeo, and they are really pleased that that's where they are. So I know that they're out there serving the community.
Great, so I got Commissioner DeBonne for 250. United Way of Central Oregon, 2,000.
250.
Whoa, look at that.
You all three came out exactly halfway.
Well,
Looks like
It
you
was
might
a
have been
dicey
planned.
call, but no.
Great. Do you
Fascinating.
want to revisit any of those before we move on to the fundraising?
No.
You just scroll up so we can see whether. I mean, just the size of the allocations is relevant to what I was saying in the beginning. There's a couple of organizations that got $1,000. A very small number who got 1,000.
Looks like 3 got 1,000, the rest were between 250 and 750.
but the ones that got 1,000, I'm sure can really use it. So,
I mean, I begs the question whether we want to put a max request size in the future, maybe for this spring cycle.
We do have, we have on there that, that it's not a requirement, but that it's requested that they keep them under 2,000. We could make that, and as you see, some did go over, but most stayed within, I think 95% stayed within that 2,000 or under. So we could adjust that as well if you'd like.
Maybe tell them, like in this fall cycle, there were, the majority of the grants were $250 to $500.
I can include that in the letter. So I notify everyone. So I could include that in the letter that for future reference. grant requests were typically in the 250 to 750 range.
Just so people have realistic expectations.
Well, you
that they
could
don't-
say to 1,000, because what, there were 3 that were 1,000?
3 that were 1,000 and then,
Because they're gonna go like, is it really worth my time to fill out the grant application for $250? You know, how long does that take?
But if that's if that's realistically what they might get, then I mean, I agree. We could say a small number of $1,000 requests, but the majority were 250 to 500, and maybe also just tell them, this many applications got 0.
so there were 16 that received between 250 and 750, and then 3 that received 1,000.
And how many that got nothing?
So that's 19 minus 47. So 28. Is my math good?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that would be a really helpful thing to put in the solicitation for the next.
I can send out another email too. So I sent out an email when we changed the grant cycle from a quarterly to twice yearly. We also changed it to an online application. So hopefully it is a little bit less of a lift for them with an online application where they just go one place to fill out one document. But we can send out an updated email if we are going to change it to March 1st, which we can discuss at the end of this, if that's where the commissioners want to go, and then put some reference materials. So those who I did speak to, I did let them know, particularly those that were coming later in the cycle I tried to manage expectations of the amount of grants we were receiving and grant dollar requests. But we could do that. So I can draft up an email and send it out to anyone who's applied for grants in the past with those updates and kind of a little bit managed expectations.
And we're actually moving one over to the fundraising. Did you subtract that one out of the 47?
Oh, I didn't. Yeah. So
So it's really 46. Okay, so
the
we have,
27 didn't receive.
yes, so actually, yes, fewer received anything. I mean, more received nothing. So yeah. All right, so we move them over.
Yep, I moved them over already. So now it's up on your screen there. Once again, just to reiterate, it's $7,500 total for the year. And now we have $10,000 of grant for this first cycle. So these are 3. Do you want to just go one by one here again?
Well, $1,500 for each of them or
Right,
something like that.
that would make sense.
Okay, so that puts the fund at slightly less than. So that'd be 6,000. So that'd leave 1,500 in your account for fundraising requests for the
Yeah,
spring.
That's too much for the whole year then, yeah. So well,
Yeah, I mean, I think at most 1,000.
yeah, okay.
1,000 puts it just over half. So that puts at 4,000 remaining, 3,500 remaining.
We could proportion this in relation to how much they requested. I mean, if Sun River Women's Club only wanted 2,000, then could squeeze them down to 750.
And anything's gonna be good for all of them, I'm sure.
I'd leave it at 1,000.
I'm supportive of that.
Okay.
Don't mind that math. That's one.
There we go.
There we go. Okay. Great. I will send out those notifications and update it. So do you want to decide as a board today if you want to move that deadline, excuse me, back to March 1st instead of April 1st, or do you want to have some time to consider it?
I'm supportive of that. Maybe March 15th is the only other thought I had. I don't know.
That's
January,
fine.
February,
I mean,
March.
it also means that the window between this cycle and that one is then 5 months, and then the window between that cycle and the next one in the next fiscal year is going to be 7 months. And
Well, we
so
can move that.
We can move that one
I
up
mean, this
because
is-
this is really late. Honestly, we're almost like
I support
November
moving them
1st.
both back.
Okay.
Just by a month.
Okay, so we went March
Well-
1st and then moving it.
Watch out for, end of summer, September, Labor Day stuff. So maybe just a week or two after that. So
November 15th, maybe.
yeah, something
Yes,
like
why
that.
not? And then you're going to investigate the treehouse therapies.
Yep. Trios therapies, and then I'll look into the projectors.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
So are we going to work backwards then?
Anthony Regini is here if you would like to discuss item number 6, consideration to hear an appeal of a hearings officer's decision
Sure.
denying application for a non-farm dwelling.
All right, Anthony. Thank you so much.
Good morning, Commissioners, Nick, Kim, and Brenda. For the record, Anthony Regini, Principal Planner, Community Development Department. I'm going to go ahead and share. Oh, there it is. Join as panelist. I'll share my screen and while we're waiting, just for anybody who happens to be watching, Caroline House was the original planner assigned to this file, and I'm taking this over because she's out on leave, in case anybody was confused about that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get my PowerPoint up. There we are. Okay. So again, as Nick mentioned, this is a request or a decision by the board whether or not to hear an appeal of a hearings officer decision related to a denial of a non-farm or single-family dwelling. The subject property is located at 71510 Forest Service Road 6360. The property is about 10 miles west of Terrebonne, and it's right on the border with Jefferson County. It's approximately 42 acres in size. Here on the screen is their site plan, and you'll note that in the southwest corner is where the non-farm dwelling was proposed. The issues on appeal relate to really 3 issues that the hearings officer identified and ultimately denied the application on. You'll hear me talk about sort of all of these tests that I have on the screen are related to Oregon, either revised statute or administrative rule. And there's quite a bit of LUBA case law, if not a circuit court of appeals law on these tests. So for the first one, we have the farm impacts test. And in this one, the applicant's required to identify not just the nearby farms, but the farm practices specific to those farm uses. And the hearings officer found that the applicant didn't address the specific farm practices that would or would not be impacted by the proposed dwelling. Second, the hearings officer denied the application based on the unsuitability test. Here, the applicant's required to demonstrate that the portion of the property where the non-farm dwelling will be sited is generally unsuitable for the production of livestock, crops, or mercantile trees. There's actually a 2-part test to this, the second one of which is if the property cannot be farmed by itself, you have to show that it could not be used in conjunction with other nearby farms. And the hearings officer found that the applicant didn't address that. With regard to the stability test, the hearings officer found that when you look at the 1-mile radius that we normally analyze, the approval of this dwelling really, in his mind, shifts it from a resource zone development pattern to more of a non-farm or a non-farm use development pattern because of the number of dwellings now that would be approved in the area. The applicant appealed that basically for all 3, arguing that the hearings officer did not apply the tests correctly. For the board, your decision to hear or not hear is based upon 3 things. First, the record developed before the hearings officer. On the screen, I have the website where the entirety of the record, including the appeal materials, are located. Second, the board can consider the notice of appeal submitted by the applicant. And finally, staff's recommendation. For staff's recommendation, we recommend that the board not hear this appeal. And it has to do with the fact that all of the issues on appeal have to do with, again, with statute or rule and the case law surrounding them or associated with them. And it's highly unlikely the board will receive any deference for whatever decision you decided you made with regard to this application. And so, again, staff recommends the board not hear the appeal. If you decide to hear the appeal, the appellant requests, or the applicant, who was also the appellant in this case, requests a full de novo hearing. If you decide not to hear the appeal, then the hearings officer decision becomes the final decision of the county. In your packet, you have a draft order to hear and a draft order to decline to hear. And with that, any questions? And I'll stop share screen.
I'm inclined to accept the staff recommendation and not hear this appeal. I think that if we're not going to, we're not going to get deference. If basically the powers that be at Luba or in other places don't really care what we think because these are matters of state statute interpretation, then we should just let this issue go where it's supposed to go.
I think this is, kind of that conflict of developing private property, a disconnect with the concept of resource land. There's, maybe minimal grazing that could be done on this property, but hasn't been farmed for profit. Probably I haven't gone into the depth here. So then we come up with the concept of defining what open space means opposed to resource land. But I support not hearing this, seeing that this is kind of the state tenets of the land use system.
Honestly, when you read the letter from their attorney, it really breaks my heart because I see, the first conditional use permit was expired by the prior owner, and then they got in 14, and it came back again, and now here we are, we're 10 years later. And they have a dream, and it seems like they keep having to fight for their dream, and I would hope that we could do something, but then again, we're being told that, okay, nobody's going to really listen to what we say about this. I really feel their pain. When you're trying to do something and you're trying to follow the law. Remember, we're trying to follow the law, and they just keep getting said no to. So I'm sorry that we can't help them at this moment in time, but I can definitely see that it's been 10 years since their last position where they were actually they were good until they got the appeal. And then, of course, that costs more money. So, yes, is there somebody that can make a motion?
I move to deny the request to hear the appeal and support board order number 2024-042.
And I will second it.
Is there any further discussion? Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. Thank you, Anthony, for taking over for Carolyn.
Chair, we're now prepared for item number 5. Thank you for being here early. If the board is at the chair's discretion.
Sure. Item number 5. This is great being flexible.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Danielle Martell, the management analyst on our illegal marijuana team. And this is Liz Lopez over at Deschutes County Sheriff's, also financial expert now. So she has come in towards the end of this. And so I came to kind of clarify any questions that you may have on this. This funding was just an additional amount that the the Criminal Justice Commission offered us. And so
At the time, it was just, our grant was going to end 2023 with the DA's office and Ben PD. But we also, as the sheriff's office, had a different grant. And what they did is they combined that amount of money. The DA's office asked if they could be added to the grant, and Criminal Justice Commission said yes, they just needed to put in what they were asking for. They also asked us if we wanted to put in anything additional. And so we filled out our request, and they honored that request and gave us additional money until the end of 2025. So that is what we're here about, is the additional request we made and that they approved for us.
Almost $300,000.
Yes.
So is that what you asked for?
Yes, they actually gave us everything we asked for. So we are asking for some more advanced technology that we haven't had in our office as far as for the marijuana team, with some cameras, some fixed cameras that we can actually do a little bit better surveillance and stuff like that. Another dump trailer, some extra equipment, but also to cover a part-time sergeant that does work for us. So that was added in, and then the overtime for the DA investigator. He does come out and help us out with, he does some of the suspect interviews. Sometimes he will get dirty and cut down plants, but that's usually my fun job. So they do come out early and help us out and get things going. And so they, when they asked to be added back on, we were happy to add them back on to the grant.
And if you're the person who gets dirty,
Yes,
I was at a marijuana bust a couple years ago, and
I was out there.
yes,
Remember you out there.
I know. And remember what they did with the plastic, and they cut it up and it blew everywhere, and it blew into the neighbors' hay fields. And so I hope they learned their lesson, that they don't destroy the plastic like they did that time.
Yeah,
I hope they changed their plan, because I kept calling them and saying, you cannot do that. That destroys people's, people's the value of their hay. You can't feed that.
Yeah, we are actually getting, well, actually, I think they've caught on to the fact that the ODA is not giving out hemp licenses as easily as they used to, since OLCC now works with them. So that has cut down on some of that, but we still have the unpleasant ones in the shops and different areas like that. So we haven't seen as much as the Visqueen, so that's the good thing.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Great.
Still get dirty though.
Yeah, well, of course, but yeah, no, that operation was, I think, like 50 acres or something.
Yeah, it was huge.
It was a huge operation. So, yes. So anyway, well, I'm really glad that you received the other 268,000 that you asked for.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, how many other communities around Oregon are receiving these CJC illegal marijuana market enforcement grants? And
It's
did they pick us to bump the funding because we're doing such a great job, or did they basically give all the grantees a little bit more money?
I am not completely sure on who else asked for additional money, but in the beginning, this grant only went to 3 counties, and Deschutes County was one of them. As time has gone by and the counties that didn't jump on realized that the problems were coming to their area. So we've had a lot more counties like Douglas, Jackson, Josephine, us, Lane. I think even Lake is now asking to be on there. So a bunch of different counties did ask to be
Didn't
on there.
Klamath have some marijuana issues too?
Yes,
There is-
so I'm sure they're on there too. And so when the county or the Criminal Justice Commission, they came out and met with all of us grant award winners and asked us what we were doing. We obviously show them all our cases and what we've done. And they said they thought they might have some extra money. And if the agencies wanted to ask and put in a request per personnel and equipment and different items like that, they would consider it and look at the budget. And so I know for sure we did. I would assume at least Josephine and Jackson County did too, because they have such a huge problem there. It'd be interesting because it wasn't the same type of grant application this time. It was more of a supplemental onto the grant, and so you didn't get to see all the applicants.
Right.
But I do know that they looked at it and they were gonna judge it by who put in and whether they had enough funds, and apparently they had enough funds for us, so that was a great thing.
Yeah. And one of the things I learned from what the history you just shared is that we were one of the first. So, I mean, I really do think that, you know, being early adopters of these programs, you know, being the first in the gate, you know, sets us up for when there's opportunities to get bumps in funding, things like that. We're in really strong position. So glad to hear that.
Yeah, I would agree.
But from what you hear though, because you work in this field, what about Southern Oregon? Is it getting under control at all?
It's getting better.
I mean,
It's still.
it seemed like they were overwhelmed with the cartels.
And they're still working a lot of cases. But from what I can tell, if you look at the hemp registry in Oregon, the amount of hemp licenses has gone down. Number one, it was oversaturated. And so unfortunately, legitimate hemp growers were being inundated with people that had a hemp crop and a marijuana crop. It seems like that has gone down. I'm not saying that they don't still grow. They just don't try to pretend anymore that their hemp is hemp if it's not. So we have a lot here in Deschutes County. We don't have a lot of those licenses left. They're all the old school hemp growers, like the original hemp growers that have stuck with it. So Jackson County and Josephine are extremely aggressive though with, I'd say they do a lot more eradication than necessarily big cases. We try to do more on the casework because we can spend a little bit more time on prosecution and doing that. And they are just really trying to get them out of their area. And they do a lot of hefty fines for environmental stuff. So, which is good. And with code enforcement and the water master on board with us, we've definitely seen a lot more teeth to this, which is great.
Do you want to add anything to it, Liz?
No.
Thanks for
Great
coming.
job, Liz.
Sorry.
Oh,
She jumped in at the
Yeah,
end and
I
it was
jumped in,
like, yeah.
right at the end and trying to figure out, and we kind of learned that maybe this hadn't been put in front of you guys yet, so we just wanted to make sure we were crossing all of our Ts and dotting all of our Is to make sure you guys had everything that you guys needed.
oh,
Well, it's good for the community here, this too. I mean, and that's the value of bringing it in front of the board is for, you know, the public and the media to be able to hear about what's going on and more resources coming for the great work that's being done.
yes. Wasn't marijuana legalized in 2014? So it's been 10 years. And, you know, did we ever think that we were going to have the cartels here like we do? So, yeah.
No,
And they're, yeah.
it's unfortunate because even at myself, I thought that that would help. And unfortunately, it's
Mhm.
taken advantage of the situation. But with the laws that have gotten tougher, I think it's really helped out a lot. The governor was very helpful with that and also with holding owners accountable for continuing to rent to the illegal marijuana growers. So I think that put some teeth into it
Mhm.
also. So all those steps are positive as far as let's make our legal businesses thrive, not the illegal. So hopefully that will help.
Well, and the dynamics with the, you know, the discussion of you know, national. So I know that people were, what I assume is that some folks were getting real aggressive predicting that marijuana is going to be legalized across the nation and then there'd magically be a big supply. So I think there were some choices made that were assuming things would happen nationally. And I'm not advocating for that, but it's just amazing to see some of the choices that are made.
Yeah, and it's been unfortunate. Oregon has been known for its exceptional marijuana. So unfortunately, some people took advantage of that. And it's not really fair to the people who took the time to fill out the paperwork.
Mhm.
Right steps. So hopefully, and I personally have seen that we're making a difference. So I just think if we can keep going, this will get down to a negligible problem in the future.
Right.
So, I mean, you looking to the future, I mean, if hemp licenses, like, licenses to grow hemp legally, was sort of this Trojan horse for people to, try to hide illegal, cannabis production. And we're starting to get a handle on that. Are there other kind of trends or kind of strategies that the black market cannabis production people are using that you're kind of seeing rise in importance, and this is the next thing we need to get on top of?
I think the biggest thing is keeping our eye on the cartels coming in. And obviously that has to be in conjunction with the feds. I don't think anyone really realized that that's what was going to happen. But California is so much worse position than we are because obviously it's bigger and they have a lot of areas that are almost inaccessible, but you're seeing the cartels there also. So
You're talking about Murder Mountain?
the Murder Mountain, and then, I don't know if you remember seeing not too many months ago, there was like 6 people murdered out in the desert in California and that.
Southern California.
Yeah.
Yes, we saw that, didn't we, Kim? Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as that came out, I was like, oh. One of the things. And it
Yes.
was, unfortunately. So I think that's the biggest thing we need to keep our eye on is that the cartels
Mhm.
don't have the option to come and take over. And I think here in Deschutes County, we've done a pretty good job of keeping an eye on that. But just that would be the biggest issue, is just making sure some of the bigger organizations don't get a foothold.
But remember, didn't we have 48 greenhouses out in Alfalfa a couple years too? After the bus we went on together, 48 of them. I mean, that had to be built up over a period of time. And okay, so we did go in there and you could just see the squalor and the living conditions of the people that they were having work there. It was horrific.
It was horrific. It was definitely something we don't want to see a lot of. And unfortunately, Southern Oregon sees more of that than we do. But if we see that type of grow, we're gonna hopefully, we also have to rely on our partners out there with the public of letting us know, because some of this stuff is very hard to see without, having some tips from the public. And that one was not.
You couldn't fly over it without missing it. I mean, yeah.
No, you could not. That was a big one. We've had a couple like that, but luckily we haven't seen the type of human trafficking since we've gotten some of those people out. So I will cross my fingers that we don't see that again.
Right. Yes, definitely cross your fingers.
Yes.
So is there a motion?
I'll move to accept the award of additional grant funding from the Criminal Justice Commission to address unlawful marijuana cultivation and distribution operations.
Second.
Any further discussion? Commissioner DeBonne,
Yes.
Mr. Chang,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. So thank you.
Thank you. Great to see you.
Thanks for your great work. Thanks for the good news.
Okay, so other items? I do think, on Monday, I forgot to mention that, Commissioner DeBonne and I were at the Farm Bureau dinner Friday night. And, it was well attended. The new lobbyist for the Farm Bureau was there. And then, yesterday I did speak directly with Holly about the Rascal Rodeo. And she's, which is done actually at the High Desert Stampede and at the circuit finals. And they're looking for a sponsor. And Holly was going to talk to Paul Partridge because it's a really special event that a lot of people in Central Oregon bring their children and maybe their older families that they can have that opportunity. And, I think I've been at the Rascal Rodeo now 4 times, and it's really heartwarming and an amazing experience for kids. And then I always suggest that they continue on with Healing Rains, because that's another opportunity where you can get on a horse, and for that hour a week, like parents say, it makes their children so happy. So anyway, I'm hoping that they can maybe be the sponsor for it next October.
So we attended our joint fair board meeting with the Board of Commissioners the other night. So that was just Tuesday night. Just acknowledging that. I want to thank Jeff Hines for doing such a great job at the fairgrounds and the fair board members for keeping an eye on things. That's the fair facility 365 days a year. The Fair Association was there for the annual fair, but also the big events happening in the future for comprehensive planning efforts that's going on right now. If there was just hundreds of millions of dollars to invest in it, we could just go, the sky's the limit. But a lot of discussion about what the future could be. We want the community to pay attention to that one too, because as I say, vision of the future is the focus right now for the fair property. And last night, congratulations to the county college graduates of, was it 21? Is that what it was? Or
Well, it was 21 supposed to be, but I only counted 20 in the room,
20, okay.
but I
but-
think we signed 21 forms.
Citizens from all around the county, 10-week program, learning about all the departments, services of the county, leadership, services on the ground. So it's really wonderful to have those folks from around the county to get up to speed on what the county does, how we do it. And then great opportunities to get more engaged with, the commissions and the boards of the county also. So congratulations to those graduates.
It was outstanding. Question I did have for the Fair Board, I was going to ask Whitney about it. I know Jeff is in Costa Rica for his wedding this weekend, which is very exciting for he and his bride-to-be, but he said he was fully funded, and yet according to our financials, it shows that they're still short 4 employees. And I thought he said, that he was in a good shape, and I kept thinking, no, there's still 4 missing on our report, so need to clarify that and see.
Another item, the principal at Lapine High School was selected Administrator of the Year. Scott Oslowski is Mr. O at the high school, the principal. So Brenda helped me and she put together a letter on letterhead for congratulations. So if fellow commissioners want to sign that, it's just a simple congratulatory letter to the principal of Lapine High.
Oh, and the good news was the news had the first meeting for the Parks and Rec Board, which we had appointed.
Mhm.
So it was wonderful to see that they actually had their meeting already and they are proceeding ahead, and it looked like they're really tackling the finances of that group and then getting their employees back. So nice to see that didn't take too long.
So for that letter, is there support?
Sure.
So I'll move.
I'd like to see it, but.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
So what is the graduation rate now in Lapine?
Well, as I say, it bounced off of 59 for a few years, but I think it's going to go way up from here. There's a lot of good things going on at the school. So, and I don't know the current number.
Yeah, I just wondered.
I'll just share tonight at the Belfry, the Roundhouse Foundation is sponsoring a speaker series on forest restoration and fuels reduction. And I'll be speaking on behalf of the Deschutes Collaborative Forest Project about the 100,000 plus acres of treatments that have been implemented on the Deschutes National Forest with the support of the collaborative and additional funding from the Collaborative Forest Landscape Restoration Program. Yeah, and in a landscape, 100,000 acres plus in a landscape that wraps around Sisters, Bend, and Sun River.
Well, we went from summertime smoke, quite a fire season, to cleanup fires. I turned around the corner towards my house and there was big old just smoky path for a little while, just a little area of it. But somebody was already doing a cleanup fire, which is the good smoke at this point in the year, at this point in the year. If there's, safe burning for cleanup piles, this is the time to do it, especially when the weather comes.
Well, that's what BLM said they were going to do with all the hundreds of burn piles on Fire Road.
Yeah.
But honestly, what have we had? 6 months of smoke and looking at, they're studying now what the grapes in Oregon and the ones that are seriously damaged. So yeah, and the tourists that are going to start really wondering what's, I'm hoping that we have some snow and they get that cleaned up, but they have more junipers to take out there. So they haven't been there for a while.
there's a lot of great fuels reduction work that people can be doing on their home properties, and we can be doing in the national forest and on the BLM lands. The other 8 or 9 months of the year when we don't have wildfires burning, and I hope that we get to that work as soon as possible this fall.
Yeah, I think all my neighbors have goats now. If we could just put them in a herd and haul them over to the forest and have them start cleaning up. That would be really helpful. I know, maybe Whitney will get her goats and they can start helping too. So, do we have an executive today? No? We just have Stephanie here just to make,
Wanted to come see us.
Just come up and say hello real quick. Stephanie Marshall, Senior Assistant Legal Counsel. I was just communicating with Kim. I had a couple of items that I was going to be here to help with the agenda, but I also had to appear for the assessor's office for a case management hearing and an appeal on that. And that took longer and you guys all went quicker. So,
Okay, good.
so here I am just, saying hello and good
You
morning.
were going to be here for the
Other-
mini storage items?
I was going to be here for the mini
I
storage
wondered
items.
where you were, but.
Yes,
Oh.
no, I was on the line with Magistrate Boomer. Yeah.
Wow, okay.
We other staff managed to guess through it.
Got
Yes,
through it.
and I did give Will and Nicole a heads up yesterday saying I have this 9:30. So I was watching online a little bit and then I had to go, appear before the magistrate. So I'm
Great.
sorry to have missed.
Yes, I'm sure you are, but it's nice to see you now.
Yes, thank you.
So anything else?
Just a reminder that the board, we've been invited to the 25th anniversary open house at Bethlehem Inn from 11 to 2. If commissioners or anybody would like to stop by during the open house, everyone is welcome to do so. That's all I have.
Oh, gosh.
Good
It's not
timing.
quite 11 o'clock, so, all right, thank you for that pleasant reminder from the Bethlehem Inn, 25 years. Okay, all right. There being no other business, I believe we have a meeting at 1 on Monday afternoon, so we will see you all Monday at 1. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, Stephen.